Good afternoon and welcome to today's ThreatTraq. There is a significance to today's ThreatTraq and as being in the month of October. Typical October is well known as Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And in order to spread awareness and cyber safe and a little bit hygienity about how to be safe on the cybersecurity. And this month has chosen as the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. What is the background? I think back in 2004, the President of the United States and Congress have combinedly declared October to be the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. The goal is to basically helping the individual to protect themselves online as new threats are coming up, how to keep up with, how to stay safe, and also provide guidance to organizations also. Every year, CISA actually comes up with the theme for that specific month and specific year. This year's theme is See Yourself in Cyber. What that it means is basically putting emphasis on the people part of the cybersecurity. We all know that cybersecurity is not only the responsibility of the cybersecurity professionals, it's basically responsibility of each and everyone, including kids, adults, everybody. I think that's the theme for this year. So as based on the theme, let's say somebody was sent as malware, the productivity loss. That's basically so many cycles have been spent. So if you calculate in terms, there's always some sort of a loss which not intended.
So all right, so we'll get into it. We'll get into some terminology that is starting to get a little bit more well known. So when we talk about phishing from email, we just talk about phishing. They're just kind of throwing these emails out there and seeing who's going to lop it up, who's going to bite, and get caught, right? All right, so let's get into kind of email phishing. I have an example here, which I created on my Gmail account. And this is a real phish, minus the redactions. This came from an actual bank. And this is pretty much how they word it. Your account has been regarded as inactive and locked in compliance with our terms of use. You have 24 hours to unlock your account. Please go here, otherwise your account will be completely removed on the expiry of the mentioned period. So, I mean, it is crazy to think your bank's going to remove your account, right, with all your money in it. They're making money on the interest. Why would they do that? But you know what? You could be in a situation in your life where everything is going wrong, and this just seems like the natural way. Like, oh, of course this would happen, Let me go and fix this let me get ahead of it, before anything happens. And in this case, it's just a link. It's not even asking you to log in. So this link could be, to take you anywhere. It could take you to download malware. It could take you to supply credentials. You could click this link and it could say, thank you for verifying your email address. No further work needs to be done on your part. We've unlocked your account. Have a nice day. And you're like, I did something good, right? But you've just opened the door possibly on your machine or provided something for them to gain access.
This is obviously one most obvious primary method, right? They will send a URL within the message and they ask the user to coerce him to click on that link. There's also another way. I mean, it's not as prevalent as the links, but that still they can come as an attachment, right? When you click on the attachment, that can also explode a malware, and does the same thing like you explained.
Yeah. So when it comes to the attachments, there's a lot of ways attachments can detonate, right? So there are attachments that, if it's a Word document, it could, as soon as you open that document, there could be some false information in there that looks normal, looks real, but there could be macros being launched behind the scenes. Those macros initiate commands, and those commands, they go off as soon as that document is open. Sometimes it'll ask you, please press here, I didn't include that here because if I'm being honest, I think we're seeing more of the link form of email campaigns lately than we have the attachment, but it's still prevalent. They still are sending bad attachments. And those usually come as PDFs, .exes, but mainly not. It's usually PDFs or Word or Excel files. Some of these can masquerade as ISO files. So as soon as you double click it to download it, it mounts that to your machine and executes what's behind it, whatever code is behind that image. Kind of like the days you used to put a CD-ROM in your drive and it just auto ran. But in this case, when you do see if there's an attachment, I guess there's another step you have to do, right, before it launches. So it gives you a minute to pause and say, maybe this is not right. But when it comes to these emails, these are the easiest ones to get caught up on, because if you're on your phone, right, and you get this email, it may be easier to just click the button, the link, right, and assume everything is, but it's on my phone, what's the big deal, right? Like, it's not like, and it's harder to download a file on your phone. We can, but I would say in this case, every single time what you should do is hover over the link. Whatever the link says it is in the actual body of the text, that can be customized. Everybody knows that. In this case, you can see Google changed the way that they use hover, right? So before you used to hover over, and if I'm not mistaken, it used to show you right away the preview by the cursor, by your mouse pointer. But now you have to kind of look on the bottom left of the screen. And this is not how every browser performs. This is not how every email client performs. But I just want people to kind of see, in this case, I had to go look at the bottom left of the screen to see. So if you don't see it right away when you hover, just kind of look around, because email clients, browsers, they're constantly updating themselves to try to keep people from downloading malicious files and getting to malicious websites. And they're changing their tactics on how they display certain things. But again, this is an easy way to kind of see where you're going. And it's never going to say bad link, obviously, but a lot of malicious links sometimes tend to be really long. And if they're not really long, full of jarbled letters, they don't have anything to do with what you're clicking on. Just ignore the email, go right to the website of your bank or whatever the institution is that, quote unquote, sent you that email, and just go around and see if you can find that message somewhere in there, instead of clicking the link to take you there. Manually go and see.
You talked about when you hover on the link, basically URL, it will show you the link or something. Sometimes I think this needs to be kept in mind also. We know that domain spoofing. These bad actors, typically they try to mimic the real IP address, or maybe domain, or maybe domain name, or maybe whatever the basically relevant information closer to the real domain. For example, bank.com, maybe there might be the real one, maybe the bad one, maybe it may say b@nk.com. But we are looking at, like you said, on a phone, if you're looking at the real estate, it's so small. It's hard to distinguish between @ and A. Basically, it kind of alerts the user to click on it. So what happens is in this scenario, they're not only actually spoofing the real domain, which is controlled by the bad actor. I think it's also something just needs to be kept on mind, not only hovering, basically looking at the spelling, how close it is, maybe is it sounding it's not right or something. And also top of that, instead of just clicking on the link from the emails or anywhere, or maybe from attachments anywhere, try to go to the website directly. Like to try to type in www.bank.com. I think that's what the example is, right? I think that will take out to the real website. I think that's one key tip should be kept in mind.
Yeah, actually, the domain spoofing is a big thing. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really big thing nowadays. It'll look just like the website, but they change one letter, in the domain or in the URL, and it takes you somewhere completely different. But to the fast eye, it looks normal. A C instead of a K, something like that. So yeah, again, I know it's hard and it's a pain, but once you have your mindset that this is a thing, it's easier to kind of just take your time out real fast.
Absolutely.
And just take a quick look.
It's a kind of building the muscle memory.
So we'll move on to smishing, which is SMS phishing. Everybody's probably gotten a text like this where, it comes from a certain store you've been to, or maybe you've never been to, but it's fairly easy for people to find out where you shop nowadays. Everybody joins these rewards programs in a lot of places, and believe it or not, some of that data gets sent off to third parties, and they get sold off, and it eventually gets into the hands of people who shouldn't get into the hands of. So they kind of can target, or at least they can shape these messages to something familiar. And you'll get something like this, you want $1,000 gift card, back to Ganesh's point of the scare tactic, right? They're going to scare you into clicking it. Your account with this and this service is going to expire if you don't click here and verify your personal information. I think nowadays a lot of companies have gotten pretty smart with smishing, and they know not to really, unless you've requested a link, like you signed up for a portal, right? For like a medical portal, and they say, we're going to text you a link to click immediately to verify you are who you are, then it's understandable that you'll get something like this that may look a little weird, but as long as it's something you've requested, like IRS will never contact you via text. It's getting into the head of the user, right? It's social engineering the user to trick them into thinking everything's okay, but you have to solve this problem, and then you can move on with your day.
Most oftentimes, maybe all of the time, you don't see any URLs or bit.ly links. It would be something like, for example, some people set up a phone as a second factor, maybe part of multi-factor authentication. They will send you a one-time code or something. So there won't be any URLs or bit.lys in there.
As a matter of fact, a lot of those text messages say this will only be valid for 2 hours. If you did not request this PIN, please contact your bank. It doesn't even say click here to contact your bank. It says please contact your bank. If you get a message like that said here is your PIN, if you did not execute this request for your one-time PIN, please contact your bank. So there's another form of smishing using that tactic, but instead of saying please contact your bank, it would say, if you did not execute this request, please click here to verify who you are. No, that's already another form of smishing. Like they already know that institutions are using SMS as a second factor. So the bad actor taking advantage of that. And this kind of also leads into another topic, which, again, we could talk for hours, which is multi-factor authentication fatigue, where they will pound away at your phone over and over with the same exact message. Typically, it's going to say, please click here to verify this is you. Please click here to verify. And you're just going to get so tired of getting this that you're just going to click it. No, I mean, if there ever was a red flag, it's too many of these at the same time. Whoever you're requesting this from will send you one. I've never seen it where they send you more than one. And if it gets to the point, you can just block it or just ignore it and find out from that institution why you're sending me so many of these. Because it could always be the case where somebody actually logged in as you and is trying to authenticate as you, but because you selected SMS as a second factor, it's triggering this test. So you got to make sure that if you do get something like this, if you did not make that request and there is no link in that text, maybe you could call the institution just to clear the slate. Say, hey, I got this text. Is somebody trying to log into my account? So I think that covers some of it, maybe not every use case, but these are the use cases that we've been seeing here and there. I would say if you have some kind of a login, right, an account somewhere, whether it be a bank, any kind of financial institution, anywhere that, like a medical institution, anywhere that has any kind of information that's valuable to you financially or just and you have the option to use an authenticator app as your second factor, I highly recommend you do that rather than SMS. Because SMS, like I just said, could be used against you. But I would say if you have an authenticator app, this app is on your device. Would pretty much need your device, your physical device. And the authenticator app, what it does is it generates a one-time token that cycles usually every 60 seconds. And that app is has a heartbeat going to a server with the customer or whatever service they're using. So you're always kind of authenticating with that customer on your personal device. So it's something you own, right?
You're telling to use some sort of authenticator app, whether software-based or hardware-based, correct? So if you're trying to work on a specific device, it's always the best case to have the authenticator app on a different device than what you're having? Does it matter really? What's our thoughts?
Your phone is a good place. Just remember that if you lose your phone, keep that in mind. You have authenticator apps on there that could expose you. So you may want to think about constantly backing up your phone so that if you ever lose it, you can just send the wipe command, right? And wipe it. And if you find it...
Fair enough.
Yeah, if you find it, you can just restore it.
Yeah, you showed us a couple of use cases.
Hey, we just got this new toy, right? This new application, this new security, program that's going to solve all of our problems. Never.
Rather than just one simple password or single authentication factor.
Yeah,
and also, a little bit pivot. Maybe this is my opinion in the sense. Also, it's always good to keep abreast with the latest news and trends in the sense of why I'm saying, I try to explain a little bit. For example, all these phishers, they always they ride on the what's trending, what is the latest news. For example, some conflict is going away. There might be some phishing scams based on that theme. Maybe during the pandemic, there are lots of COVID-based themes. They know how to basically trick people. For example, in the scenarios, people tend to click rather than think a lot. I think it's always good to be abreast with the latest trends happening and try to see why I'm getting some sort of email, maybe some text message when I'm not no way concerned or something like that. Another thing, maybe it's altogether would be a long discussion, but nowadays we are hearing about deep fakes. Deep fakes is basically that's where I believe social engineering aspect of phishing activity comes in through. I think the scammer can go in different places, harvest your maybe your pictures from one platform, maybe your voice from some platform. Using artificial intelligence, they create a deep voice, basically fake voice, which resembles you. Maybe image looks like you. So I think, if anytime, I think this needs to be probably growing trend going forward. This needs to be actually, maybe we should keep an eye. I think, for example, let's say I got some voicemail, maybe I call from George, like you. Let's take examples of both of us. And no way, actually, I'm not expecting anything, a call or maybe anything from you. Probably, maybe take extra time, maybe don't give, maybe don't give any information. Try to reach to George, hey, George, are you trying to reach me?
Did you really send this? And if not, maybe their email account was compromised, right? Or they're just being spoofed, because it could also be they compromised your email account and they're just looking at your address book. So Ganesh, that leads us to vishing, right? Which is voice phishing, right? Where you're receiving phone calls. One specific part of vishing that I want to talk about, because it could also be expansive, is when they do number spoofing. I've been targeted by this, and I'm sure a lot of people have, where the phone number itself calling you shares the same area code, right? And the same prefix, or the exchange, they call it. So you have your area code, 555, and then the next three numbers, 555, and then your subscriber, which is the last four. It's very easy for bad actors to spoof the area code and the exchange. And this is where they start targeting people in that specific area. And it's easy to find out what zip codes belong to certain exchanges or prefixes. So that tactic has been around for a few years now, but it's kind of easy to fall for that. So you see your phone ringing, right? And the first six numbers, including your area code, wow, this looks familiar. It almost looks like my number. It must be somebody in the neighborhood. And
Got it.
I think what people should understand here is just the idea of picking up the phone. And even if there's no interaction with the caller, like let's say you pick up the phone and it says, hi, you get an automated message saying press 1. A lot of the times, just the act of pressing 1 or pressing the number gives the visher information, because most of the time these are robocalls and they're just broadcasting these calls out, and they just want to see if a number exists. So once they have,
so they're basically validating the number. Okay.
Right. Once they have your response, then they know, okay, this number exists. We'll put that aside, and we're going to target them down the road, right?
And also, if the person is your friend or family, probably you have stored them as some sort of contact with name. So
exactly, you have an association in your phone book. Right. And nowadays phones are smart, right? They pull data from the internet, or they pull data from your emails, right, to try to match it up with that phone number. So there typically should be a name. Vishing from, like, let's say, a corporate angle is a little different. There's typically a reason for that call. And a lot of the times, what does everybody have in a corporate environment? You have a help desk, you have service desk, right? Everybody creates a ticket for a broken printer or something like that. So they're using this everyday kind of issue that they have, that they know people have, and they're just kind of taking a chance where they're going to say, we're going to call this user and say, hey, that ticket you opened for that printer that's busted, yeah, we're almost ready to send out a technician. I just need you to provide me some more information. Or maybe we can just log into your machine and we can fix it remotely. This is a huge no-no. Like, nobody needs to log into your machine remotely. The only time that should happen is if you call the help desk.
So we go to the one of the slides. So you showed it's too good to be true. Maybe think about it.
It's too good to be true. It typically is. Or if it doesn't, if you'd like, wait, did I open the help desk ticket? Maybe I did 6 months ago. No, like, okay, you know what? I'll call you back. That's it. Let me verify with the help desk. I'll call you back.
Sure.
I just want people to understand that this is a real thing. This is happening. It could be avoided so easily. Like, so many security events could be stopped if people just took a second and try to understand this phone call. And if they did not initiate that request, please verify. Like, if you did not initiate this request, did not make this phone call, should never provide anybody information over the phone, especially your credentials.
Just to your point, like a closing remark, we should encourage users to reach out and maybe report anything they seem suspicious. Even if it is not a security event, maybe we should encourage them to come and reporting to sysadmins or security experts. If they say maybe it looks like a fish, but I'm not sure. But even if it is not a fish, maybe probably we should encourage them, so that sometimes they are the first line of defense who are basically receiving it. But excellent points. I think I really enjoyed the discussion about the phishing today.
We can sit here and talk for hours about how to give awareness to people, but ultimately it's just trying to train your brain to think twice or think thrice, like you said.